Welcome in, Halas Huddlers. It's the official start of the offseason. We got some veterans to cut.
Or should we be looking to make a trade?
Or should we be giving away another free NFL jersey? That and more on this episode of the Halas Huddle podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Halas Huddle podcast. Here are your hosts.
The middle of the 15 to the 20, breaks free of the 25 to the 30, to the outside, 40, midfield, 40, 30 of the coast, 20, 15, Hester 5, touchdown Bears!
What's up, Halas Huddlers? Welcome to another episode of the Halas Huddle. I threw us all off.
Yeah, you messed it up, Rob.
That's all right.
Guess what? It's the offseason. We don't need to huddle up anymore. So now it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. Now it's time to tear this thing apart and build it back up again. Not completely, just a little bit. Got to get this thing right. Got to right the ship and make this thing a playoff contender. So this is mock off season time, guys.
That's right. It's exciting
Like Christmas.
Yeah. We did a mock draft earlier already. It's kind of like a teaser. Now we're going to start looking at some roster cuts, a bunch of other things. But before we do, let me take that back. There's 3 videos to this for this mock off season, right? So there's going to be the one we're in right now, which we're going to look at roster cuts. Is there anyone to extend? Anyone that we want to re-sign before they hit free agency? Justin alluded to some potential trade candidates that might be out there. There's some big names. And that's going to lead us into our episode 2, where we're going to look at free agency, right? Salary cap that's involved. Then our another mock draft will be the final wrap-up, where we actually have our complete team. We'll have a 4th episode. It's kind of like just a recap episode, so it's not really a part of the 3-part series. And the reason I'm saying 3-part series, I alluded to this in the intro, but we have a new giveaway. Okay, it's the mock off-season jersey giveaway, but I can't even speak. There's 2 major rules to this giveaway. 1, you have to be subscribed to the channel. Okay, simple. The other one, you comment on the mock off-season episodes, and you comment with the word huddle up. You can add anything else you want to it. You can just do huddle up. That's up to you. Now, the key is, since it's a 3-part series, you can get 3 entries to this giveaway. So if you comment huddle up on all 3 videos, boom, you're in there 3 times. You only do it twice, you're in there twice. You only do it once, you're in there once. You don't do it at all, I guess you don't want a new jersey. This is an awesome.
What kind of jersey would this be? Is it going to have to be an old Justin Fields jersey, or what are they getting?
Hey, it's an NFL jersey of their choice, but I would hope that they're choosing a Chicago Bears jersey. I'm no longer putting Bears jersey in the words, because Justin and I got so frustrated last year with that comment that it was just like, okay, this team's bad. Why don't we give away a Philadelphia Eagles jersey? Maybe you're a Jalen Carter fan.
That's what Bob would want.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. He's a good player, guys.
He's a good one. He's a good one. We can get good ones on this team too, and we're gonna talk about how.
We sure can.
Right.
Real quick, do we want to recap what our off-season needs are?
Yeah, sure. So, a couple episodes. I know some of you guys have seen. If not, go back and check out that episode. The 3 of us all listed our top 5 needs, had some honorable mentions, and the collaborative top 5 needs of us were not surprising, but left guard, center, right guard, all top 3 needs. And then we also both defensive end, we all had need down there, and then we kind of split defensive tackle and safety. So those kind of 6 positions, guard, center, and tackle, safety, are the top needs, and kind of honorable mentions, not to be ignored, were running back, wide receiver 3, and then another tight end. So in this 3-episode series, hopefully we're going to address all those needs between either trade, free agency, or the draft.
Once you listed it out there, Rob, it just not quarterback and not linebacker. because you could have snuck kicker on there, so not punter either.
We could have snuck kicker on there. We could. We'll have to see how that goes because we all know how I feel about Cairo Santos.
We'll talk about it.
I guess let's just get into it then. Here's our cut candidates, right? I don't
first order of business.
Yeah, it's not necessarily all of them.
So as we're looking at this, do we have a feel like what's the Bears' current cap space number like without making any cuts? Do we we can kind of keep a running tally?
Yeah. So right now they are currently sitting at roughly 65, just shy of 65 million in cap space. Okay, that puts them, I believe,
in the league. Fifth most in the league.
Fifth most. There we go.
Okay. And all teams, by the way, real quick, when I hear that they have 65 or 66 million available in cap space, that's phenomenal because even teams that are negative or very close to even still feel like there's things they can do to manipulate the cap, renegotiate contracts, push the money down for future issues. So it's good to be in a space where you don't have to do that kind of stuff. But as we see here, there might be some guys to cut to add to that number, especially if there's some big moves you're looking to make.
Yeah, so for those of you watching on YouTube, we have a bunch of names here, and listed next to those names, that's actually the salary cap savings that you would get if you cut these players. So there's some big chunk numbers in there for some guys that might not be on anyone's radar for keeping. I know we have 2 confirmed cuts already between the 3 of us for the Halas Huddle.
Can I say them?
Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. And again, this is mostly for the YouTube viewers because you can see the numbers right there. But to me, the ones that jump out are Gerald Everett at $5.5 million you get for cutting this man, and Ryan Bates $4 million. On a previous episode, I think it was one that maybe just Rob and I did. Well, maybe it was all 3. I'm not sure. But we said you cut Bates, even if you end up going back to him later and he doesn't sign somewhere, you can't pay him $4 million for what he's given you up to this point. So right away with those 2 cuts, you can add 9.5 to their 66 million.
Yeah, and that's a real important point as we kind of go through this list and see who we are or aren't going to cut. It's not just about what are you going to save, but what are you going to be able to do with that money that you saved. And certainly with Everett and Bates right off the bat, you can more than replace what they gave you last year with less than you're getting when you cut them. So that's very, very easy. Just, thanks for showing up, but good luck next year.
Yeah, so Ryan Bates barely played, right? Gerald Everett actually played in all 17 games. He only saw 22% of the offensive snaps. He caught 8 balls. That's it.
Yeah,
that's not a guy worth $5.5 million.
That's 8 more than me.
Yeah. And you probably could have caught at least one of them, so I'm going to give you – he's only got 7 more than you, Justin.
Thank you. I mean, there are other guys on there that they certainly could do without. I mean, Dominique Robinson has not shown enough. But that's 1.1 million. So
and I would count Dominique Robinson as a key special teams contributor, a guy that size who could move that way. I think he's a four-phase special teamer. He's one that maybe you hold on to training camp. Maybe he's a final cut in training camp, but I'm not sure. I'm just getting rid of him right now.
Bob, you want to talk about the one on the bottom?
Yeah. So DeAndre Swift's an interesting one just because of, we all watch as much Bears content as we can here, chatter, social media. A lot of people talking about DeAndre Swift. We got to move on from DeAndre Swift. There is no advantage to cutting DeAndre Swift. The salary for next year is going to be $9.3 million, and if you cut him, there's a dead cap hit of $8.7 million. So that's just $500,000 that you're going to gain. And are you going to be able to replace DeAndre Swift's production with just $500,000? No, you are not. And if he can just be used in a more complementary role, then he might actually be more efficient in the end anyway. So he's on this list just so that we can say he's not going anywhere. He's going to be a Bear next year. So let's just start dealing with that fact.
Bob, are you alluding to some of that chatter being linked to Ben Johnson because of their histories crossing paths?
Yeah, I mean, the Lions explicitly got rid of DeAndre Swift. They traded him to Philadelphia, remember. He wasn't a free agent and he left. They traded him. And then they went out and did sign David Montgomery. So it's a very interesting. Clearly, the Lions have a bit of a different philosophy than Ryan Pace / Matt Eberflus had. Ryan Poles. So how many times is that going to happen during these
in the jar?
Oh, man.
Yeah, but it's never been reported, though, that Ben Johnson went to ownership and said, I can't work with this guy. You know what I mean? Like, they decided to move on from a player.
And it could have been just how much they fell in love with Jahmyr Gibbs. And just they knew that they were taking him. So it was just, being proactive on that end.
And get a different kind of back to complement him, as you said, which the Bears certainly should be trying to do. It wasn't in our top 5. I think it was probably 6 or 6.5 to get a running back.
Next episode, we'll talk about maybe there's a David Montgomery in this year's free agents class. We'll see.
Yeah, there definitely is. There's a guy I would love to have. I mentioned it before. No. You could probably get in the 3rd round. So if he falls there. So real quick. So I know,
Rob.
What was that?
I got to toss one your way if you're okay with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because as far as I know, and I'm not going to speak for Bob, but I've never really thought to cut this guy, and I don't think it's coming from Bob. You keep bringing up Kevin Byard.
Yeah, no, I am not wanting to cut Kevin Byard. I think he had a great bounce back year. The only way that I would cut Kevin Byard, and this is kind of something Bob and I got to talk on pre-show a little bit, there's some pretty good safeties in free agency. So if you're able to lock one in, at that point, Kevin Byard becomes expendable.
So that's what really interesting conversation about Kevin Byard is that, are you going to you cut him? Are you going to replace what he did for $7 million? Probably not. But he is on the older side. Was he going to be 30 next year? 31
He's already 30.
31, I think.
So, I mean, did we already just kind of get his, best, advanced age season? All of us sitting here in our 40s talking about the advanced age of 31 is kind of crazy. But, should we cash out on that? And then the flip of that is you cut him, you get only $1.5 million at dead cap, and you get free up $7 million. You're not going to replace him with $7 million. But there's safeties out there that if you want to sign him for $12, $13 million, you're going to get more than you're going to get out of Kevin Byard. So it's just, I'm not necessarily advocating for the cut. You would have to know for sure that you are definitely going to go get one of these free agency safeties. But I don't think
32. What if I told you he was 32?
Yeah, he's going to be 32. Justin, I think you threw it at me for one reason, though, because safety was in my top 5 for needs, right? And I honestly, it wasn't just Byard, because I am concerned with Jaquan Brisker and his health for that concussion issues that he's had over the last 2 years. But I also feel like the draft is an area where you can target someone to be brought in, and then that person can be groomed behind Kevin Byard. So if they can't get one of these guys and they don't want to spend top dollar on one of these safeties that we'll possibly discuss here in a little bit, then it's okay to keep him. I thought you were actually going to say DeMarcus Walker, because we had a sheet going. He's pictured here on this list. I actually have him as a guy I'd be okay with getting rid of, as long as it means they brought in another top free agent, someone who I would say can replace and actually exceed what he's done for the Bears. I will say, and he's also on the older side too, because he's also 30. But I think what people don't realize is that DeMarcus Walker's numbers, they're actually pretty darn good. Like, he's a solid veteran that you don't need as your starter. But if you could have him as a rotational guy, whether he plays on the inside or the outside, I think he's definitely a guy to hold on to. Again, unless you can find someone to replace him. And again, we'll mention some names here in a little bit. Justin, if you talk trades and we bring in a trade, like,
I will throw DeMarcus Walker into some of these trades. But I think you're talking kind of both sides here, Rob, because you nailed it. They need to bring in someone better than DeMarcus Walker to go across from Montez Sweat. And if you do, DeMarcus Walker is a great 5th D lineman because he can play end, because he can go inside. So I think at that price, I mean, again, any of us would take any of these salaries on this screen right here, I think. But for the NFL, 5.25 isn't breaking the bank for a guy that you feel can cover you on both the edge and interior as a backup.
Yeah, I'm firmly in that camp. You're not going to do better than DeMarcus Walker for $5.25 million, no matter what you do. Whether we go for one of these crazy trades, whether you're bringing in, a $50 million a year free agent DN, in any of those scenarios, you still need DeMarcus Walker to be, like you said, that rotational. He's going to play 35 to 40% of the snaps anywhere along the defensive line. There's a role for him no matter what else you do at defensive end. So I'm holding DeMarcus Walker.
All right, I'm gonna change slides here for just a second, because we already confirmed these two guys are off the books. Now the Chicago Bears have $74.3 million in cap space. They got a lot of room to work, and that would put them still in fourth place. So it didn't get them above anybody else, but it got them closer.
Yeah, but that's still a key contributor out of free agency at $9 million a year, right? I mean, that's going to be more than you got on those two guys. I mean, some other names around that previous slide that I just don't think are going anywhere. Tremaine Edmonds, he's just not going anywhere for a $13.5 million dead cap hit for only $4.3 million in free. He's not going anywhere. TJ Edwards, more likely to get extended than cut. He's not going anywhere. The Jonathan Owens one is a very interesting one because that's me and Rob also kind of talked pre-show about how a lot of these decisions we just don't know yet because it's going to be how does Dennis Allen feel they fit into his scheme. If he thinks Jonathan Owens isn't the type of safety for his scheme, then that $1.5 million is probably better spent elsewhere.
And we all believe that Cairo Santos needs competition this offseason. So if the competition wins the job, then you're cutting him.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need that $2 million right now. And if you did cut him, he'd probably have to be at post June 1 anyway. So I think that's just kind of a wait and see. I don't think he gets cut now.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason it'd be to me, and I have him as a cut / post June 1. Not that I would designate it now, right? But just having it in the back of my mind, he's going to be gone if whoever we bring in, and I'm not talking the 13 kicker Cole competition that we saw in the Ryan Pace era, but I want one or two guys brought in, and I want to see him actually maintain that job. And here's the thing, I put it out there on social media the other day, like a lot of people had pushback on it. They wanted his accuracy, and I do agree with that fact. He has been a pretty accurate kicker. Not last year, though. It was only at 85%. Now, part of that was due to having two kicks blocked, right? But that goes against him, right? That's not. I mean, it's against the line, but it's also against him with that low trajectory. I would be okay with someone kicking 83% of the time, making their field goals, if it meant that you could actually kick from the 58-yard field goal range consistently, right? Like 2, 3, 4% less, but you're actually kicking more often and giving yourself more opportunities. I'm okay with that.
Agreed. All right.
So we just going with those two cuts?
For now, that's all we're going to agree to, yes. However, as this mock-off season progresses, guys, there will be things that are done off camera that we will have to mention. And again, that's what that recap episode will be for. We will come back and show, some of the big things that we did, and then also who we believe are going to be our starters. Not the full 53-man roster, but our starters from what our decisions were.
Halas Huddlers, don't forget to huddle up in the comments, but let us know if you think one of these guys on the list that we said is a keeper should be going. Put it in the comments.
Or if you just love Gerald Everett, let us know too.
There you go.
Yeah.
All 8 of those catches.
Wow.
All right, so what's up next? We got the extensions.
Yeah, so it's extension time. Here's just a few. Oops, I went to the wrong layout. Sorry, guys. So on here, we have guys that could be extended. We also have guys that their contracts basically are expiring and they need to be re-signed before they come back. Kyler Gordon
first.
Who should we cut first?
No, I said, which do you want to talk about first?
Oh, let's talk about extend. So we got Kyler Gordon, TJ Edwards, Jaquan Brisker, Braxton Jones. All of these guys are going to be on expiring contracts. They're up at the end of this season. Typically, this is when you want to do an extension. You can get them for a little bit cheaper before the market increases. We already have one that we've agreed to off air.
Let's talk about that one last.
Okay. I would also be extending TJ Edwards. I know I was the only one in this one. I will put that out there, but this guy has been fantastic on this defense. I think he's very underrated. His ability to basically be around the football on almost every single play. He'll have his down moments for sure. Can get caught out of position in some of the passing downs, but he's not that bad of a coverage linebacker. But I'm excited to see what he can do in the Dennis Allen system because Dennis Allen likes to bring the heat. And TJ Edwards is one of those guys that can get some serious sacks.
I'm not opposed to that. We can come back to it. Maybe you can convince me and Bob that it's time. But I just want to say the last two people on that list, Brisker and Jones, in no way could you go to them right now for an extension. First of all, they're both injured, if you ask me. And Brisker, the level of that concern, we got to see it and see him have a healthy season. That's too much of a risk. And Braxton Jones, the only reason he's quasi-safe in our minds is because the rest of the line is such a disaster. Otherwise, he'd be one of the guys you'd be wondering and wanting to see more from.
So definitely agree on Jaquan. You just cannot extend him without knowing what's going on with him health-wise. Braxton is – I'm also not advocating for it, but it's an interesting – if he were to agree to some type of below-market, just he wanted to lock in some guaranteed money now, we basically put him at the top of, like, the swing tackle market, something like that. And so you just kind of know that, all right, we got Braxton Jones at $8.5 million for the next 3 years. Like, okay. That's not so bad. But, I mean, why would he want to do that? He wants to come out and get, his $16 million a year in free agency next year. So I don't think either one of those are getting extended. As far as TJ Edwards goes, I love TJ Edwards. I want him to be a Bear. I love that he wants to be a Bear. I love watching him play. I'm just not going out of my way to invest in an off-the-ball linebacker.
There seem like a lot of guys that could do what he does if they were in the system and it worked for them.
Yeah, so it's more just a wait and see rather than, hey, this is a priority to get done this offseason.
See, I look at it as like an Andrew Billings situation, though, because I think that you could get him. He already came here on a very cheap contract after being a standout player on that Philadelphia Eagles team. I think he came in at like $19 million total, right, for his contract over 3 years.
More than that. It was like 16 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So like when I projected this out, like I had his max contract at $30 million, so like around $10 million a year. If he's willing to come in for that, like, or somewhere around there, I'm hitting that button.
Yeah, I'm just not still so sure I am.
So that's his 30, 31, 32 seasons.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Let's hold off. But Kyler Gordon, that doesn't take any convincing, right?
No, it doesn't. We'll talk his contract in a minute, but real quick on the re-signings, because I think this will be real quick. Tevin Jenkins has just been too injured. He's a great player when he's healthy. Again, I think all of us put out there that we would let him go test the free agency market, and if he's able to come back and say, hey, this is what I'm being offered, and we think it's a good enough price, he's being kept, right? Because he's worthy of being here, even if he's a backup. That would be fantastic. Keenan Allen came. There's rumors now that he's saying he either wants to finish here in Chicago or he wants to play for one of the LA teams. I find that very interesting because it doesn't seem like he has that great of a relationship with the other wide receivers in the group, who came out and said that they wanted Cooper Kupp on the Kay Adams show and had nothing to say about Keenan Allen.
But weren't they asked the question somewhat directly, or
in a little bit of a way? But she also named other wide receivers who were going to be available, and none of them, like, being a teammate of him, that he is going to be not here. So either they know he doesn't want to be here and they're just using that as an agent for like a negotiating tactic, or
when she gave the list of names, she didn't say Keenan Allen.
Right. But again, if you're my teammate, Justin, if I'm being swept up by another podcast saying, hey, why don't you come work for us? Who would you want to bring with? Anyone that's out there, right? I'm going to say one of you two. I'm not going to just say names that they list. I'm not getting put on that spot. But I'm not going to just give them like what names they list. I'm going to say the guy who either I know is willing to be there, but again, maybe they know he doesn't want to be, right? That could be it too.
All right. Well, we're not re-signing him, right? Unless
we are not re-signing him.
The market dries up and he's
again. I think both of you said to let him test the market and see what comes back.
Test the market, and then we'll just see.
Darrell Taylor, I think he could be a good rotational guy if you could get him on a cheap, veteran type minimum contract. So I'd be okay with re-signing him, but again, you got to see what he comes back with.
Gone. He did nothing last year. Give me a 5th round pick over him.
Patrick Scales, Matt Pryor.
Austin Booker needs playing time, so
that's true.
Matt Pryor's a guy that I would definitely be bringing back as a rotational guy, unless you can find a better upgrade, which I'm perfectly okay with. And then long snapper is a long snapper.
Long snapper's a long snapper. Like Patrick Scales could come back, or Scott Daly, who they had all year last year, and Patrick Scales' absence could come back. Either one, they're going to sign one of them for whatever the league minimum, whoever's going to take less between the two of them, I guess. I don't know.
I feel like it should say their name /guy.
Yeah, so
there
we'll
you
get
go.
one of them, but we do have to get one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. Here's the guy. This is what we came up with. I'm curious to see where Spot Track has it at because I did not look at details ahead of time.
I'll bring it up real quick.
All right. Well, while you're pulling that up, we decided that we were going to put Kyler Gordon at a 4-year deal worth $56 million with a signing bonus of $10 million and guaranteed $30 million. That should put him right around the 20th corner as far as being paid in AAV. I think $30 million guaranteed is pretty good. This is better than I'm blanking on the corner that we talked about out of the Colts.
Kenny Moore,
yes. This puts him ahead of him, and I think he's better than Kenny Moore at this point. I'm all for this.
Now, we're trying to pick a deal we think is team friendly, but that the player too would be happy to sign.
Correct.
I think the way Kyler Gordon has played, that's a fair contract. He's a nickel corner, but in today's NFL, that's a starter, so you're going to have to pay a bit. And
he's had some injury issues
in the Dennis Allen system. So get him now before he puts too much good play on tape, and you have to increase that by about $2 million a year.
Yeah, I think this is top of the market for nickel, and I think that's fair to ask for. I think it's fair to give him, and I think this is just get it done.
I just realized Spot Track won't have anything because he's not.
Yeah, it doesn't have his market value yet.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, that's easy.
Yep.
He said yes.
Yeah, he did say yes for us. So again, I don't know if I said it, but I have been making moves on the Spot Track manager tool that they have available. So again, we're at 73. Well, we were at 74.3 million. While we're finishing this up, I will go ahead and add Kyler Gordon to this roster and see where we get.
Is it time for me, Rob? Is it time?
It is time for you. I was going to say, I'm going to do that while Justin leads the show here.
Now, let me say something. I think it's important. Another reason it's important to have that massive amount of cap space is you can get a little creative and think outside the box. And some big names have been mentioned as potential trade candidates. You got Myles Garrett. You got Micah Parsons. I've heard Max Crosby. I've heard Trey Hendrickson. Now, I'm going to stop there because I'm really fixated right now on this edge position. The things you must consider if you were going to make a trade like this is, what are you going to give up in terms of draft capital? And what's it going to cost you to extend these players? Because you're not going to trade for these guys as if they're rentals and you're just going for it in 1 year. Now, some people feel, and even Ryan Poles is on record saying you build through the draft. And you do. I'm not saying you do not build through the draft. However, there are players that are game wreckers. There are players that are impact players. And you need those to be contenders. The other part of this is I feel the Bears did a disservice to Caleb Williams with the way they allowed his rookie year to go. And I still think he put a lot of things on tape that were quite impressive. Did he make a lot of mistakes? Did he act like a rookie at times? Yes. But if you think he's that dude, especially coming in with Ben Johnson as his new, not just coach, but somebody who's going to watch film with him, he won't have to go do it in some dark room that he made by himself. That's a shot at Shane Waldron, by the way. That's another episode. But if you think that pairing can be special, you have 3 years now where you're paying him rookie money and you can afford a Myles Garrett or a Micah Parsons at a crazy number. Because after 3 years or 4 years from now, you're going to have to pay Caleb Williams upwards of $70 million a year. I know that sounds extreme, but that's what it's going to be. And it's going to be the same thing that happened to Seattle when they had to start paying Russell Wilson. All the other pieces had to go away. But if you told me right now, and Rob, you mentioned a guy coming up in this draft, Abdul Carter, who might be the next Micah Parsons, and how we didn't get into the details, but you said you'd be possibly willing to trade up to number 1 to get him. That's going to cost you draft capital. And you'd get a guy on a rookie deal who might be Micah Parsons. Why not just go get Micah Parsons? Micah Parsons is going to be 25, I think he's 25 years old. You extend him, it's going to be a crazy price. You got some money. You get creative with the money in the deal, and you have him for his prime. All of a sudden, Montez Sweat is your secondary edge rush. He can set the edge and get the leftovers. Micah Parsons wrecks games. Bob, you talked to us a lot about Jalen Carter, and he's a game wrecker. Who's the Bears' game wrecker on defense? They have a solid defense. They don't have a game wrecker. If you can do it at a cost of draft capital that does not give away your opportunity to still build the O-line and get a little depth at other places, I am a strong proponent of making a big deal, making a big splash move this year. Be bold like you were in pursuing and getting Ben Johnson. We've never seen the Bears be bold like that. Let's continue it this offseason and make a big move, a big splash, and get one of those top two guys. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'm certainly not advocating that the Bears don't need a game wrecker. I'm not advocating that you shouldn't have good players on your team. When the Bears traded for Khalil Mack, they gave up 2 firsts and a second and the contract, right? The problem here is, what are we at, Rob? Something like 76 million cap space, something like that?
With the extension, we actually gained a little bit over $1 million on the Kyler Gordon deal, so we're at just under 70. Just right at 75.
And how much do you have to withhold to sign a draft class?
Their draft class is projected. 1 second. It's probably right around 7 million is my guess.
That's a lot less than I thought. Okay. All right. So let's just say we're at about 70 million that we can use. Micah Parsons is rumored to want $40 million a year. If you make a trade like that, you have no grounds to hold your ground. So he's going to get $40 million. And so now you have $30 million of cap space to sign 3 starting offensive linemen.
I gained 5 because in the trade I sent Walker.
Okay. The point
you can get money.
Like there will be teams who should make this trade, but you make this trade because it's the final piece of the puzzle, not a foundational piece, because then you have foundation, but you don't have any money to build a house on your foundation. Like I just don't see it. It's just moving resources around instead of like just building. And I know we want the Bears to win the Super Bowl next year, but this is still a window of 4 more years, and I just don't think you have to throw away what you need to build with just to get the one guy.
So I saw a projected trade that actually included the Chicago Bears. It was a mock draft, and I'm blanking on whose mock draft it was. One of the NBC, CBS's, ESPN's, NFL's of the world. And they had the Bears trading number 10 to the Browns, and also their 2026 first for Myles Garrett. I had to pause because, to be honest, I'm kind of like with Justin, like I had to at least think about it. Like I'm not quite on Justin's side of the fence, but I'm on the top of it. I'm riding that fence. My groin hurts because it was like, yes, you're giving up. The only reason I would hesitate is because he's 29.
Yeah, I'm not even willing to entertain at all for Garrett. Like Parsons is a bit of a different, like I understand that. I still don't think I'm doing it. But
that $40 million a year is for his prime.
I understand. What do we get out of Khalil Mack's prime?
You had Mitch Trubisky.
Okay.
I don't think Caleb Williams is the same thing as Mitch Trubisky.
I agree with that.
And they went to the playoffs.
I will say, though, there are some names in free agency that I also make me pause and not want to give up the draft capital. I'm a big draft guy. I like building through the draft. I'd rather be the Lions in this scenario. I'd rather be the Eagles. Like, I know they traded for A.J. Brown a few years ago, but, like, I'd rather build through the draft, add some plug-and-play guys in free agency who can just kind of build up your both sides of the ball. All I care about is the trenches. And I do think this is a good enough draft class at defensive end. Like, you're not guaranteed to get the Micah Parsons or the Myles Garretts of the world, but there are good enough players in there that I'm willing to pass up and let another team take that chance with one of these guys. Perfect example, too. You besides Khalil Mack, I mean, you had Khalil Mack and Bosa in LA, and this was the first year they looked like they could do anything. And I mean, coaching matters. That's just proof right there. But I don't know. I don't like the idea of giving up 2 first-round picks anymore. Like we did it with Pace, and I'm just afraid to do it again.
I think it's going to take more than 2 first-round picks to get Parsons. Like, the Cowboys can ask for everything, and then Parsons can ask for even more on top of it. Like, I just don't think that it's.
I also don't think he's getting $40 million. What's the highest? I think it's 30.
Mm-hmm. I understand that, but I'm saying once you make a trade like that, the extension has to come, and you have no leverage in the extension talks.
And then again, both your top paid players are your 2 defensive ends. Like I would honestly entertain the idea more if we're talking about like a top left tackle.
Pressure on the quarterback.
Like, to me, if we were talking about the top left tackle, I would be more interested in it.
Nobody trades those.
I know. I wonder why.
I do too.
And I don't think Parsons is getting traded either. I mean, why would the Cowboys do that?
Well, to your point, how could anyone ever take him on then?
What's that?
I mean, to your point, who could ever trade for him? Like you said, a team that's one piece away, but
yeah, a team that's one piece away. That's who.
If they're one piece away, can they absorb a $40 million contract, or they're renting him for a year?
They'd figure it out. I mean, you don't give up that capital and then for a 1-year rental. Like,
well, that's what I'm confused about. Like, I just don't see what team that would be. They're one piece away, but they just have $40 million sitting around for that player.
I can tell you who that team is, and unfortunately, he plays for them. No, he plays for them.
Oh, Cowboys?
Yeah, they're a team that would do that. Jerry Jones is crazy. The other team possibly is the Raiders.
I mean, we can get into it in the next episode because I wanted to bring the list up when we're talking about free agency. But, like, the Bears are 5th in free agency. Like, of the top 6 teams in free agent money next year, 4 of them made the playoffs this year. Like, Commanders, obviously the Cowboys aren't going to trade Micah Parsons to the Commanders. We know that. But I think Detroit has like $45 million.
That's what I thought you were going. That'd be worrisome.
They're in the top 10.
Teams that are a player away that it makes more sense to give up multiple first-round picks to get the finishing piece to your team than it does the Bears.
All right. We'll see. Be bold. Be bold.
All right. Well, here's the thing.
Clear. If it happens, I'm like,
here's the thing.
Justin is on the Bears. I mean, I'm not like.
Justin is on the record for wanting to make a trade. We will continue to hash this out off of the episode. As of right now, I don't think Bob or I are going to be convinced. So I don't think a trade will be happening in that magnitude. That said, I do just want to quickly say there are a few restricted free agents. We didn't make a slide for this. Restricted free agents and the other
ERFAs.
I can't think what the E stands for off the top of my head.
I think it's extended restricted free agents.
Whatever it is, but there's 4 guys that we decided, the 3 of us agreed to, and then Justin and I agreed to another, and that is bringing back Jack Sanborn, bringing back Joshua Blackman, and bringing back Jalen Jones. And then Justin and I are bringing back the GOAT of comedy, Bill Murray.
Very good.
None of those are going to sway the numbers too much, I don't think.
No. All right, well, let's wrap this up because this is getting a little bit long for what we had planned. Again, there's a new free jersey giveaway. Please go back and you can pause the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, you'll just have to re-listen to it a couple times. But again, hit subscribe, hit the like button, leave us some comments. Let's build this thing up. Let's build this up like the Chicago Bears. Let's get this running and get a playoff berth and maybe a Super Bowl on Valentine's Day in 2027.
Let's do it.
Why not?
All right. Until then, bear down, claws up. All right. I'm wondering if I should just stay in this so I don't have to redo all this stuff.